Oh, now we are ready to rumble. Hello, everyone. Welcome to, I think the first ever ask.
No, we
Oh,
used
this
to
is
do
the
these all
first.
the time, K-Mac. You
I thought
forgot.
we always had a topic.
Oh, no, we
Maybe.
used to just do Q&As in the beginning.
Okay, well, welcome to the first recent Ask Us Anything. Answering some of your frequently asked questions about the job search, and any other questions that you guys have. There's a couple that came in beforehand that we'll get to, but anybody who's live, let us know. I'm seeing. Oh, I'll let you do the introduction. Actually, I do appreciate this comment though that people assume this. You were a minute late to start.
I mean, maybe he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So today what we're talking about, just so you guys know, is, as Katie mentioned, usually, at least for the last, I think, 2 months, we've had a very specific topic that we discuss on these weekly Q&As. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Gaurav. This is K-Mac. We go live every single Wednesday, or most Wednesdays, at 10 a.m. Pacific. And we're talking about very specific aspects of the job search. Lately, we've been talking about how to land interviews without applying, how to prepare for these 200K to 500K interviews. And why we talk about that is because our company, Career Sprout, focuses on helping professionals, senior level professionals in tech, land 200K to 500K job offers. So mostly everything we discuss is geared around that. But because for the last, I think, 6-7 weeks, we've just been going really deep on very specific topics, we thought maybe this is a good opportunity to slow down and answer any questions you all have about the things we've been discussing, or just about navigating the job search in general. I did ask that if you have questions, either just drop them here that you want us to answer today, or email us, or DM us. And we did get a few DMs that came in, so I'll be sharing those first. But as we do this, if you guys think of any new questions, do not hesitate to ask. That's what this whole call is for today. Did you want to take it away, K-Mac, with the jokes and all the things?
Yes, I do. I have one that I think is going to be a good one. So can we pick somebody to be the judge? I would like Maya to be the judge every week, personally, because I feel like she has very biased feedback.
I like it. Maya's sharp. Anyone else can still be the judge. And for Sucheta, AMA just means ask me anything. I should have put AUA because this is ask us anything.
I'm also very glad you asked that because I didn't know that that's what it stood for, so I had to look it up. Anywho, joke of the day. What do you call a line of men waiting to get haircuts?
A line of men waiting to get haircuts. I don't know.
A barbecue.
All right, I like it.
That was a good one.
That was a great one.
Okay, we'll decide. It's always fun because there's like a decent delay between when I say it and when people give feedback. Oh, Maya liked it. Oh, I thought somebody knew the answer to that. Okay. Oh, Benjamin, welcome. I'm happy that this is the first one, or hopefully you'll enjoy this as your first.
Benjamin. Yeah, so just so you know, Ben, we usually start this off with Katie telling a joke or two. Sometimes they land, and other times they never land.
Well, this one
never land. I'll take it.
Dude, we got multiple this week. That was a good one. I'm gonna store that one. That one might be on repeat.
I'll take it.
All right, now we can get to some of the questions.
Okay. Do you want me to start with the question that came in?
Oh, you start. Yeah.
Okay. Here's the question. It comes from Wendy, our good old friend Wendy. She says, do you recommend writing? I'll let you take this one. Do you recommend writing an open to work post if your position was eliminated? And if so, any tips?
Oh, I'm taking this?
Go ahead. Yeah.
The short answer would be yes. I don't think it will. Yes, if you do it properly, or if you don't do one of those posts that is what I'm going to call
Tread
sad.
lightly. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to say sad. If you are in a negative, if you're feeling really down, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm actually going to give you exact advice that I shared with one of our clients. She had something that was so outside of her control happen, and she was getting ready to write a post, and you could tell she hadn't really processed it yet, and it had some really negative undertones in the message. And my advice to her was, hey, sit on it until you feel like what happened to your advantage. I would not send this message. And what I mean by that is oftentimes when we look back on our lives, things that in the moment felt awful or terrible ended up turning into one of the greatest moments. If you look at back on like your highlight reel of your life, your proudest moments, the things you're most proud of, when you felt most confident, oftentimes it came after something that was really negative. So if you are now in the headspace where you're like, you're coming at it from a position of positivity, and the post has positivity in it, that it was a blessing in disguise, or that you're grateful, and it includes quantifiable accomplishments that are relevant to the jobs that you're targeting, I think it's totally fine for you to do. If it's got any sort of sadness or negativity, I would not recommend doing it. So something that we've seen work well is, hey, I'm now open to insert the specific opportunity that you are looking for. A few, relevant things that I've done over the last 10, 15, whatever years are 1, 2, 3 quantifiable accomplishments that you have from your career. If you happen to know anybody who's looking for this type of expertise or experience, just let me know. Of course, for anybody else who's looking, more than happy to make an introduction if you see anybody in my network hiring for roles that you're interested in. So as long as it follows some realm of that where it's positive, it's talking about very specific, the one role you're targeting, your relevant experience, and you're offering to be of help to other folks, then I am all for it.
Nice. All right. Do you have a question that came in that you want us to answer?
I was going to do the ones that popped in live.
Okay.
Okay. John asked, is it okay for second round interview to wear a black polo shirt instead of a suit? It's for a Google Meet. I would say it depends on the company culture. I would err on the side of over versus under dressing and look at what that company culture was. If it's McKinsey or like very, very corporate, I would definitely not recommend a black polo instead of a suit or a shirt and tie.
Yeah. Good one. Okay. One question that came in. Sorry, I'm just going through the ones that came in earlier was, oh, this is a good one. So I'll ask this and we can both answer this, which is, what is the best piece of career advice you'd share or you've learned or been given? That's great.
Best. What's yours?
Okay. Yeah, I'll start. So I'll give you kind of a story first, a quick one, and then I'll give you the lesson I learned from this. So when I worked at Overstock, there was this person named Megan Tuig. Actually, I'll link her LinkedIn profile here before. You guys, if once you see this LinkedIn profile, it's phenomenal. She started as an admin. It's kind of like the Nike CEO one. If you guys remember seeing that post, he started off as like an intern and now he's the CEO of Nike. Megan started off as an admin and worked her way up all the way to chief people officer. And so when I worked at Overstock, I used to go into her office a lot and she'd always be doing something. And one day I asked her, I said, hey, what are you working on? And she said, oh, I'm building a Overstock women's mentorship program. And I said, oh, like, did someone tell you to build this? And she's like, no. And I said, oh, is this like what executives do? And she's like, it's not just what executives do. It's what you do to become an executive. And there's a quote I heard by someone, and he said, the people who get paid more than what they do usually did more than what they got paid for earlier on. And I think this is a really cool piece of advice or a lesson I learned. It's like earlier on, it's easy to just say, oh, if you don't pay me more, then I won't do more. But what you notice is the people who keep moving up within companies or keep moving up in their career, they're often finding, in addition to the work they're responsible for, they are often finding or identifying different gaps within the company, like to say, oh, how can I make this better? This is missing in our company. Can I build this out? Or can I present this to somebody who can then build it out? And that's kind of what she was doing. She noticed that in this huge organization, we don't have anything in place to mentor people who are earlier in their career or just people who want to become future leaders. Let's build out a mentorship program. And then she implemented it. And it ended up being one of the things that increased Overstock's retention rate from 2.5 years to 3 years. And it was because of this little thing that Megan did. Because she identified a gap within the company and she wanted to solve for that gap. And so when she said, this is not just what executives do, this is what I had to do to become an executive, that really resonated with me a lot. So that would be my advice.
I don't know. I think this one was the most impactful one, maybe. But I feel like I've been very lucky with advice that I've gotten from folks. I think the one that came fairly early on in my life that I was luckiest to get was similar to what we talk about with like a career nirvana of like paint what you think is the best version of yourself. Like if you could imagine like no limitations, like what would be the best version of yourself? And see if you can find some folks who are there and just reach out to them. It was the scariest thing in the world when I did it the first couple of times. But that I think is like the fundamental best piece of advice that I've gotten, because I keep a Google Doc of like advice that I've gotten from people who have, and that's changed over time. Like what we're doing now, I don't know if you remember the first time we talked, this is what I thought I was going to do in like retirement, like 50 plus years from like starting work. And it's like, if I was able to shortcut it so much because I just found folks who were doing exactly what I wanted to do and just asked them for advice. So I didn't have to repeat the same mistakes that they made. And I didn't have to like learn everything on my own. And not everybody responded to me, but the folks who did, like they were oriented towards mentorship. And anytime I came back and said, hey, I just tested what you implemented and here was the result, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Or I tested what you suggested. Almost always they gave me something new to think about as like the next thing. And it's just been, I don't know if that's kind of like a cheat to the question because it's not, but it's like the fundamental one that has led to me getting the best advice that was most applicable to me in each season of life. And I do that for every arena now, not just professionally, but like my health, my fitness. I trained for a 5K, or it was supposed to be a 10K, became a 5K. And so anytime I'm like training for something or trying to figure something out, I'll just find those folks, or like getting married and like finding people who have the relationships. I think that's one of the greatest life hacks that there is right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. We're getting some really good questions. I'm going to go to this one from Javier. I'm curious about one aspect of the outreach approach, taking into account messaging limitations set by LinkedIn. When should you request to connect with someone versus sending them an email? Also, if you request connect initially, do you recommend including the same note as you'd send in the email? All right. So this is a great question. So if you have in-mails to send out, then yes, I would send like the role-based message we've talked about before, where it's like, hey, I noticed you're looking for someone who has done X, Y, Z. Over the last 10 years, I've actually done and achieved, and then you give them the 3 things that you've done. That works really well, and it converts above 20% of the time, mostly. I would keep in mind that you want to make sure you're sending follow-up notes, right? Conversions usually increase every time there's a follow-up note. Okay, but If you don't have LinkedIn InMail or LinkedIn Recruiter or whatever the thing is, then we always recommend sending a connection request first. And in that connection request, the simple thing you can just say is looking forward to connecting with you here, name. So I would just say, looking forward to connecting with you here, Javier. And then when you connect back, now there's way more characters you can send in that follow-up email. So once someone's connected with you, you can generally send a much longer email or a message. And so what we tell our clients to do and what helps them get interviews faster is they'll usually send 3 to 5 messages to recruiters who work at the company that they see a role they're interested in. And then 3 to 5 either senior leaders, maybe potentially hiring managers, or cross-functional leaders. They'll start by saying, looking forward to connecting with you here, name. And then once the person connects back, they'll send the role-based message that we talk about often. And I'll link the resource we shared for everyone here on like, how do you land interviews without applying? This is what we're talking about. We did a 2-part training series on this. People loved it. And so I'll link it here, but that's what they do. 2-step process, right?
Yeah. And since you only get like 5 or whatever it is now, 5 or 10 InMail credits per month, just to give you an idea of like volume, most of the time our clients are targeting like 4 to 6 roles per week and reaching out to about 15 folks per company. So not everybody's going to accept your connect request, but that's why we lean more towards the connect request versus InMail, because it allows you to, essentially like 100x it. Not that you need to 100x it.
Yeah. So here, while you go to the next one, I'm going to put this in the chat.
Awesome. All right. I'm just going to scroll up to the top, make sure we didn't miss any questions here. What are the most significant sections of our profiles that recruiters focus on in addition to the experience? As a general rule, the summary at the top and the career highlight section, Gaurav, if you wanted to grab that free resume, or actually I'll do that while you do the next one. Usually that top part, we want to make sure we grab their attention. Most recruiters read in an F shape. I think I have a mirror. I don't know if you're seeing this. Pretend this is an F shape that is the right direction for you. They'll scan across the top, and then you have to kind of earn the right for them to read lower down. So we make sure that summary section is really pointed, no fluff. It's like, here's how many years of experience I have in this skill set, in these industries. If you have any great logos, make sure you put them up there. Your career highlights are those quantifiable accomplishments of what you've accomplished if you've got more than 10 years of experience. And then they usually kind of scan down the first lines and see, okay, do they have the responsibilities? Are the keywords in there? And then do they have wins? Are there quantifiable metrics of how you've been able to move the needle for a company or department, team, things like that? So the summary and career highlights outside of your actual experience are going to be the 2 most important.
And this is the link I'll drop for the and if you guys haven't seen this, Katie created a fabulous resource on how to write the perfect resume in LinkedIn. And the cool thing is there's actually pre-written resume templates in here that you can find. So we'll link this here, and then this way you can, like, if you go to this, there's when you clicked on what I just clicked on, you'll typically find this. We have a lot of different resume formats you can use, and we've already written a lot of them for some of our commonly the type of clients we commonly work with, like program leaders, project leaders, product leaders, strategy and ops. So we're going to put that. I'll drop the link here for you guys.
Yep. Let's see. Do you have one that jumps out at you next? I'm just scrolling to there's a good one here. This would be a good one for you to answer.
Okay.
It says influence is often an intangible skill, unlike process efficiencies that can be measured with KPIs. In interviews, how do hiring managers assess a candidate's ability to influence others, given that its impact varies by context and perception? Do you find that bias plays a role in how influence is evaluated? This is a good question. Are you thinking, or are you trying to think? Oh, okay. I can give a couple of thoughts if you want.
Sure. Maybe my brain will kickstart after I hear your thoughts.
So whenever you're in an interview, you're being screened not only for your hard skills of like, as you're talking about, like the tangible KPIs and things like that. Every time you go into an interview, they're not only asking, hey, can you do this job? It's also, hey, would I enjoy working with you 8 hours a day, every day for the next X number of years? And so they're generally screening you not only on your technical fit for the role, but also your problem solving, which isn't always tangible, your cultural fit, your disposition, your ability to influence. There are all of these, what people call soft skills or intangible skills. And so if it's really important in your role to be able to influence without title or authority, this happens oftentimes with like program managers, being able to share a story about how you've been able to do that in the past, just a nice, simple, and you could probably even give an example of this. It's going to allow you to demonstrate that skill and what the quantifiable, result of it was. Now, is there bias at play in how they evaluate that? Yeah. Every single person, even if you're trained to not have bias, there are going to be some biases at play as to whether or not that person is going to enjoy working with you, as to whether or not you're a good culture fit for that organization. And so something that's worked well in the past for how to convey that is following a couple of frameworks. Maybe actually, I don't think we have time to go into them in depth. Gaurav, if you want to share the link from last week where we talk about having a couple frameworks. There's one called the car mechanic. There's another one called the PPSG framework, and there's a Batman versus Superman. Essentially, I'll give you the spark notes of it, but I would really highly, highly recommend, because Gaurav did a phenomenal job going really in depth with each of these. Each of those frameworks are going to be really helpful in you showing up in a way that allows you to demonstrate your skills, your intangible skills like influence, without coming across as bragging, without coming across as somebody that would be difficult to work with. Just being able to identify, this is what this culture is, this is what the hiring manager is interested in, and making sure that you're showing up as your authentic self, and not just really, that's it, showing up as your authentic self and doing it in a way that's going to help versus hinder.
Yeah. This is a good one. So Jen asked this, and we get this one a lot. I sent a LinkedIn request to somebody at a company that I was interested in. The person accepted the request pretty quickly. I sent a follow-up about the role I was interested in, and no response and any advice. Yeah, there could be a lot here. So a lot of times, and I know exactly why. So think about it like this, and we have resources almost for everything. So I'm really glad that we have this. We'll talk about this one. I actually just linked it. It's How to Land Interviews Without Applying, Part 2 and Part 1. The reason is, when someone doesn't respond, think of what happens when you send somebody a message on LinkedIn and then they accept it. And then you're like, hey, I'm interested in this role. So there's a few components at play for why or when someone will respond to you and when they won't respond to you. So the first thing is, if I'm sending you a message and I'm hoping that you message me back about a role that I know I'm a good fit for, it's usually a marketing thing. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is, like, what they're going to do is as soon as you send somebody a message, what that person will likely do is go to your LinkedIn profile and check it out. And I'm actually on Jen's LinkedIn profile right now, and she has a super cool background. She's been working for the last 4 years at a company called T&G Global Limited. And in that time, like during these 4 years she's been there, she talks about her title. All she has listed is her title. Jen, I'm talking to you specifically. And in that title, in that experience, there's nothing there. It doesn't tell me what you did there. It doesn't tell me what you achieved, the types of problems you've solved, how you've solved those problems. So now in a market like the one we're in, where there's so many applicants, the person who gets interviews is not the person that's usually the most qualified. It's the person that can articulate that they're the most qualified, like they're marketing themselves well. So for somebody to want to respond to you, they have to see on your LinkedIn profile that you have done things that they need, you've solved problems that they have, you've achieved the types of things that they hope somebody they hire would achieve. So if your LinkedIn profile is barren, like there's nothing on there, then what incentive do they have to respond to you? Little.
Especially for marketing roles.
Yeah. So that's the, like in your specific case, Jen, but in most people's cases, it's because their LinkedIn profile isn't optimized to generate responses. That's why the resource we just shared, actually all 3 resources we just shared so far, the way to write a good resume and LinkedIn profile, how to land interviews, it talks about the very specific messages you can send. But before you send those messages, how to actually write a LinkedIn profile that converts to conversations. So on yours, there's just nothing there that incentivizes somebody to respond. That's the first usual issue that someone runs into. It's just that their LinkedIn profile is not written well. The second thing is then the actual message that they're sending. And a lot of times what people will say when they send a message, and show of hands or comment here if you've done that, is they'll say something like, "Hey, Katie, I think I'm a really good fit for this role. I'd love to chat with you." Or, "Hey, Katie, I think I'm a really good fit for this role. I love this company. I love your mission. I'd love to chat with you." And that's it. And so what they're saying is like, I love this role. I love your company. I think I'm a good fit. So there's something we talk about this a lot with our clients. It's like, there's one thing is to declare, like, I think I'm a good fit for this role. That's declaring. The other thing is just demonstrating. So that's why we talk about your LinkedIn profile needs to show that you've solved the problems that your target company or target audience is looking to solve. You've achieved the things that they're hoping for somebody like you to achieve. And then you talk about how you did it. So when we tell our clients to send a message, what they'll say instead is, "Hey, Katie, I had a chance to research the role that you have posted, insert role. I noticed you're looking for somebody who has implemented enterprise, cloud solutions, or has done data migration projects, or they've done HRIS implementations. Well, for the last 10 years or for the last 7 years, here's what I've done." And each bullet that you put, usually 3 is good, it kind of talks about what's in that job description, how you did it, and what you achieved. And then they'll usually say, "If you think it makes sense, or if you think my background aligns, would you be open to a 15-minute call," or whatever. And so they're demonstrating that they're a good fit for the role. They're not declaring it. So I know that was a long-winded way, but if I were to give like a TLDR here, Jen, it's like I would expand a little bit more on like what you did in your most recent role. Make sure that what you say you did is relevant to the role that you're going after. And then you send a role-based message like the one I just kind of mentioned. And you'll typically see conversions increase.
Nice.
Helpful? Not helpful? Let me know.
Yeah, let us know if this is helpful. We're trying to get better about asking that sooner on in the conversations to make sure what we're doing is actually helpful for the folks who are at least watching live. If you're watching the replay, you can also let us know and we'll see those comments after the fact. Oh, this is a good one. Are the bullets in the career highlight section pulled directly from, aka verbatim, from the selected experience area? Sometimes. I should say they can be. So oftentimes, if you have a really cool stat from a product or an initiative that you worked on, it's not a problem to repeat it in the top and the bottom, because recruiters are going to spend all of 7 or 8 seconds scanning your profile, and you're increasing the odds that they're actually going to see it. The other thing that we tend to do in that career highlight section, it's a really great opportunity for you to talk about some of the things, like in aggregate, what have you done? So for example, like we had a product manager. She, well, actually, this is usually relevant for a lot of product folks. Like there was one where he just did some quick math and realized like he had built products that drove over $1 billion in ARR for companies over his last 10 years or whatever it was. And so he was able to add that as a career highlight, saying the aggregate of the ARR that he had driven over the last X number of years, that wouldn't have fit in any one selected experience. So that's something that you can do, is pull, if there's anything that's really cool, definitely pull it up there. I'd say max is 5, 7. If they're really, really short and you don't have long sections, you can get away with that. You can pull from below and bring them up, or just use aggregate numbers in those career highlights.
Yeah. And I think a lot of messages that we're getting are around like, what should I say? And it's really important that everyone here remember that, yes, it's important what you say, but there's several steps that come before this. And I want to show you something that will, I think, make this a little simpler. So this is a post I shared on how this person landed 7 interviews in 15 days, right? This is boom, boom, boom. And one of the things she got was at Google. This other person sent this. And then I said, don't skip day 3, because this does not happen without it. This person said, thanks for the message. I don't generally respond to cold messages, and yours stood out. When I looked at your background, I realized I'd love to learn from you too. So that was why I linked this presentation. But if you look up here, there's all this stuff that she did. And I put the entire playbook, the resume she wrote, how she wrote it so fast, which is a resource I shared earlier, how she optimized her LinkedIn profile. And then this is what she did, the messages she sent. And then down here in the comments section, I actually put the link to the pre-written resume templates. And then here's the example message that she sent. So I'm going to link that here in a second. So this is kind of the playbook that people follow. But remember, they're not going to message you back unless your LinkedIn profile and or your resume speaks to what they need. Because in this market, there's so many qualified people that the only way to stand out from the crowd is to make sure that you are marketing yourself well. And what you say is relevant, again, to what they need.
Yeah.
So I'll link that here.
And I think something, because a lot of these require some nuanced messages to go out, doubling down on what Gaurav just shared there. Oftentimes, I think when you've got situations that require a lot of nuance, going back to fundamental, like first principles is really helpful. So remembering things like, okay, well, what's our goal of outreach? It's really to build and maintain relationships with folks who work at companies that you're interested in. Like fundamentally, that's really what we're talking about here, is building relationships. And so then if you ask yourself like, okay, well, what are the principles that go into building a good relationship with somebody? Usually it's about making deposits before, trying to make a withdrawal. If all you're doing is taking from a relationship, or if you've been in a relationship, I think we probably all have, where either us or the other person was taking versus giving, it's not usually a long-lasting relationship, or at least not a healthy one. The other things are like being interested in the person that you're speaking to versus trying to be interesting. I think that's another really important principle there. So like these are some of the filters that you can put your own messages through. And then arguably the most important, this is something that Gaurav says all the time. I think your mama was the one that told you this. No one cares about how much you know until they know about how much you care. So if you are showing up to somebody and you send that message of, hey, I think I'm a good fit for this role, can we talk? That you didn't really do a lot of homework there to share why you think you're a good fit. Did you research the role? Was this just part of an auto bot sending out a bunch of messages? Like you're not really showing that person that you care about them or the company or the role or any of those things. So just taking some time, like making sure you're concise, you're considerate in your messages. Sometimes I get some rude messages of people saying like, hey, you didn't look at my resume. Am I a good fit? It's like, I don't have an open role right now, so I don't know. Like making sure you're knowing your audience, making sure it's targeted to the right person, being really considerate, and then just customizing those messages for the person and the opportunity at hand. If you're following those principles, you're in good shape.
Yeah. And if you guys, if you want to know a little hack, let's assume you're going for a role that you are very qualified in, right? Like you've done this job for 7 years or whatever, you know you're a good fit for this. Let's also then assume that your LinkedIn profile is written really well and it speaks to this role in every which way. Here's a real cool hack that works a lot. If you message the recruiter, so when you see a job posting, you'll usually see that there's a recruiter listed there. If there isn't, then you got to message a recruiter within that company. But usually the recruiter who posts the job description has their little contact info there. This is something our clients do that generates calls with recruiters. You ready for it? I'm going to start by saying what most people will do. They'll say, hey, Maya, I saw this job. I think I'm a good fit. Here's my resume. Now what you're telling the recruiter is go take time out of your super duper busy day to go and read my resume, and then you tell me if you think I'm a good fit. Usually that doesn't work well, right? You're giving them a homework assignment. Yeah. So here's what our clients will do. They'll use the role-based message. So instead they'll say, hey, Maya, I noticed that you were looking for a project manager role. Here's the job. For the last 3 years or for the last 7 years, I've been a PM and I've worked in this industry, this industry. Here's what I've done that speaks to what you need. And they'll say, if you think my background seems like a good fit, would you be open to hopping on a 15-minute call? And then they'll say, PS, please let me know what other roles you're recruiting for, because if someone in my network seems like a good fit, I'm happy to make an introduction. Because now, to Katie's point a few minutes ago, you're also making a deposit instead of just trying to make a withdrawal. You can't make withdrawals without making deposits, right? Yeah. So what you're telling the recruiter is like, you're probably super busy recruiting for so many different roles. I'm not just sitting here thinking only about myself. I'm thinking about you too. If there's other roles you're recruiting for, let me know what they are. And I can go and look in my network to see if there's anyone that I know that could be a good fit. And here's a really, really, dude, I won't share the screenshot because I don't have it blacked out yet. We just had a client a week ago land a staff project, or was it program? It was a staff program manager position. It was like a $225,000 base salary role, over 300K and something in like, total comp. And how she got this role was this way. She found a role for a director of program management at this company. She sent a message to a recruiter and she said, I noticed you're hiring a director of program management. I know somebody that could be a really good fit. Would you mind if I made an introduction? The recruiter obviously said yes, because you're making the recruiter's life easier. Now, this doesn't always happen, but remember, this is about building relationships. That recruiter spoke to this person's reference, or like the person she referred. They ended up hiring her, the person that our client referred. They ended up hiring this candidate. That candidate got the job, and about a month and a half later had a role for a senior or a staff program manager and hired our candidate. No freaking interview. Now, does this happen all the time? No, I want to be very clear on that. But she put in all these deposits, then she made the withdrawal and she got what she wanted. So when you tell a recruiter, keep in mind, recruiters are, how do they make their living? They get a base salary, and then a large part of their compensation is bonus or commission. And that is tied to how quickly do they fill roles. So if I'm telling a recruiter, I'm happy to look in my network, or please let me know if I can make an introduction, that person automatically thinks you're going to help them make more money faster. So they're going to want to probably build a relationship with you. And that relationship, who knows, can turn into something right now, can turn into something 6 months from now, a year from now, etc. So hopefully that little hack helps you all.
Awesome. I know we're coming up on time. Let me see. I think we've grouped together most of the questions. Let me see if there's any that we missed. A lot of them are outreach, it looks like. So those principles should be helpful. Are you seeing any that we missed?
I'm looking.
Listen, Linda, simmer down over there.
This one, quick one. It's a great question, Gene.
Well, we did that one while you were.
we did. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Never mind. But yeah, accomplishment section, career highlight section.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh, this is a good one. What if the best version of you does not exist in your industry that you're working in? What industry does it exist in? That may be something that you add to your list of switching industries over the upcoming years.
Yeah, that's great. There's one that I think is really helpful. Someone asked this. I can't find it. Sorry. How do when I go on the job boards, I see very limited jobs that I'm interested in or qualified for. Mm-hmm. And we talk about something. It's like if all you're doing is judging the job market based off what you're seeing in the job boards, mm-hmm. you're going to always find like top of the iceberg things. And here's what I mean by that. Most people don't know this. On LinkedIn, it costs a little over $1,100 for every company to post a job per month. So think of it like this. If a company has 50 openings or 20 openings, they're not going to post all 20 on LinkedIn because that would cost them over $20,000. And in addition to that, they probably also want to post on other job boards like Built-in, Well-Found, Remotive, these other boards. And so for a company to spend $20,000 is really, it's unrealistic, especially if they're also trying to allocate some of that budget for other job boards. So a lot of times what companies will do, and we used to do this ourselves, and a lot of companies and hiring managers we talk to also do this, they'll recycle jobs or they'll shift jobs. So they'll say, for this month, let's post these 3. Then after a week or after a month, after we get applicants, let's post these 3. And then let's post these next 3. So a lot of times if you're going on a job board and you're not seeing something you're interested in, that doesn't mean that company's not hiring for it. It just means they didn't post it. And so what we'll tell our clients to do usually is 2 things. Number 1, don't look for dream companies, because there's so many companies. We have blind spots, right? We only know ourselves. Each of us only know about 15, 20, 30 companies that we would consider dream companies. So instead, what we'll do, or what we'll tell our clients to do, is look at dream industries. Say, what industries would you love to learn more about or work in? So now it could be like fintech, health tech, ed tech, SaaS, data, etc. So then we'll say, okay, cool. Now go type in the top 25 companies for each of these industries. They'll say, cool. Now they'll get a list. And then that list will say, now instead of going to the job boards and seeing if there's a job that you're interested in, go to their company page, because it's always free for a company to post their jobs on their company page. And what happens is you realize like there's postings there that you would never have seen on a job board because it costs too much money to post every job that they have on a job board. So we'll always say to clients, don't focus on dream company, focus on dream industries. Do a Google search of the top 25 companies for that industry, then go to the careers page and quickly just check if they have an opening. And if they do, then you can send the same outreach messages that we have, that we've been sharing. That's another one. I'm going to share something. Usually, some of you may have seen this, but if you're a first timer here, you might appreciate this, because everything that we teach is actually we give away for free. So this is something that K-Mac and I wrote called the Feel Good Career. And if you look here, everything about navigating today's job market is here. This is free, by the way. You're not going to have to pay for this. And so first we start with mindset. What is, just if you're struggling with mindset, this might be something helpful. Then we talk about how do you find the roles you're interested in, doing something called a career audit, which is what we talked about often. Then how do you write a LinkedIn profile that converts? It's all broken down in here with examples, templates, etc. Then you go to this resume section. How do you write a resume that converts? And if you look right here, you'll see a pre-written resume template. And in here, we have all these different resume templates for different roles that we support. Then after you've done those, you want to get interviews. We talk about all the different ways our clients use to get interviews. There's 5 in total. And so we break it down here, like each of the 5 ways. How do you find the people? What are the scripts you should use, etc.? What should you say? How should you follow up, for those who asked about following up? How should you break this strategy down in a way that's manageable and doesn't overwhelm you, like on a day-to-day basis, right? Then when you get interviews, how should you prep for interviews? And we have all these cool resources like the Tell Me About Yourself, blah, 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 blah. You can watch this thing. And then when that leads to offers, then we talk about how to negotiate an offer and the template you should be using and what's worked and all the things. And it's all right here. So I will link this in a second. But so many of the questions y'all are asking are actually broken down in here. And what I recommend once you get this guide is try not to read it start to finish. Actually, just break it down by section. Read one section, make sure you've applied what's asked for in that section, then move on to the next one. It's literally like a resource guide. It's not like a book that you should read, because if you try to read it all at once, I promise you it'll feel overwhelming, like right when you get it. So let me link that here. Y'all want it? I hope you want it. I'm going to link it anyway.
You're getting it anyways.
Yeah. I'll put it here.
That's awesome. And Amy, thank you for following up on your question. There were, when I scrolled up, I saw a couple of other questions about what if you're not quite sure, like what the next role is for you, if you've got a lot of different experience or you've been a jack of all trades. I linked in the steps to do a career audit. That's also covered in depth in that Feel Good career guide that Gaurav is sharing. So I would highly, highly recommend anybody who's not exactly sure which role it makes sense for you to target next, that audit going through those steps should help out quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. I know we're up on time. We're actually a little over. So we wanted to just, again, as we always do, thank you for all of you for joining, for asking these wonderful questions. Yeah. Hopefully these resources we shared help. And for those of you who are new, just as a reminder, we do go live every single Wednesday, or most Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be back next week. And for those of you who did sign up for my workshop tomorrow, we did cap it to 100 seats. If you did sign up, this is going to be a 3-hour workshop where I will literally be breaking down every single aspect of how to navigate the job search in detail, with resources, with templates. It's 3 hours, but that's because there's a lot to cover, as you can see. So I will see some of you tomorrow, hopefully. Awesome. Thank you again, everyone. Yeah.